Police busted through the door of GloRilla's Memphis home after responding to what was first believed to be a burglary. But what officers found inside turned out to be far more shocking than just a break-in. And right when fans thought things couldn't possibly get more chaotic, gospel singer and Pastor Deitrick Haddon finally spoke out. And what he said left everyone speechless. You won't believe how these two completely different worlds just collided and what the fallout could mean for GloRilla's future. When police arrived at our Memphis home for what they assumed was just a standard burglary call, no one, not even the responding officers, could have predicted how the night would spiral out of control. Rumors started swirling on social media. Almost instantly, allegations of illegal substances, arrests being made, and stunning discoveries that were never supposed to be public knowledge. And as the internet erupted with speculation and outrage, gospel legend Pastor Deitrick Haddon entered the conversation with a response that threw even more gasoline on the fire. Now, we're peeling back every layer of this tangled and shocking story, but unexpected link between a rap icon and a revered gospel pastor. How it all played out behind closed doors and what it could mean for their reputations from here on out. Trust me, you won't see the next twist coming, especially once we reveal exclusive behind-the-scenes info, unreleased police records, and public statements that were completely missed in the headlines. Stick with us because in just a moment, we're digging into everything that wasn't reported, the raid, the arrests, and Pastor Haddon's unexpected message that shook everyone down. Now, this is where it gets really real and extremely messy. Just last week, chaos exploded in Memphis when police stormed the residence of rapper GloRilla following a 911 call about a suspected burglary in progress. But the moment officers stepped inside, it became obvious this wasn't just another home invasion. According to sources within law enforcement, officers found multiple people inside the home, all of whom initially claimed they were invited guests, but the inconsistencies in their stories raised immediate red flags. Officers reported strong, suspicious odors in the air, strange packaging, and what they referred to as unauthorized activities taking place inside the property. Within minutes, more units were called in for backup, and what started as a routine burglary check turned into a full-scale raid. Multiple individuals were detained at the scene, and while GloRilla wasn't at home during the first sweep, she arrived later completely unaware that her house had become the center of a criminal investigation, and was promptly brought in for questioning. What's even more unsettling? Authorities claim they found items connected to an ongoing criminal investigation, though full details have yet to be released to the public. Now, speculation is spreading fast, with insiders hinting that this could be tied to old associations GloRilla has previously tried to cut ties with, and the timing couldn't be more disastrous. GloRilla has been on a meteoric rise, earning praise for her chart-topping music and fearless personality, but now, with headlines branding her home as a crime scene, her entire future could be at serious risk. And just when it looked like the situation had reached its peak, an unexpected voice entered the chaos: Pastor Deitrick Haddon. That's when everything changed in a move that stunned both his congregation and GloRilla's fanbase. Pastor Deitrick Haddon, Grammy-nominated gospel singer, polarizing church figure, and reality TV personality, didn't hold back when he finally addressed the unfolding situation. Just hours after the news spread like wildfire online, Pastor Haddon jumped on his social media with a bold and unfiltered message that immediately divided the public. You can't walk both paths. Either you live in purpose or get swept away by the world's chaos, he said in a now viral video. GloRilla's situation isn't just about her, it's about an entire generation getting lost in fame and forgetting their roots. Though he never said her name directly, the target of his message couldn't have been more obvious. Haddon focused his message on how today's artists are drowning in fame, wealth, and destructive connections, what he called spiritual traps that ultimately ruin lives. But what made his video even more explosive? He didn't just call out the hip-hop industry. He pointed his criticism squarely at the Black church too. He accused church leaders of staying silent instead of stepping in when they see artists going off the rails. Where are the mentors? Where are the leaders who were supposed to guide these young souls before the streets take them? Haddon demanded. GloRilla's not the first, and if we keep pretending we don't see it, she won't be the last. The backlash came fast. Some praised his courage, saying he was finally speaking what others were afraid to say. Others, however, accused him of clout chasing and using someone else's downfall to boost his platform. But no matter where people landed, one thing was clear: his words struck a nerve. And behind the scenes, insiders revealed this wasn't just some random hot take. Reportedly, Haddon has connections to someone once close to GloRilla, possibly explaining why the whole thing felt so personal to him. Now people are wondering, was his message really a spiritual warning? Or was it a calculated exposure? While social media erupted with interviews, opinions, and reaction videos from all sides, GloRilla herself stayed shockingly silent. No tweets, no posts. No statements, nothing. And for someone as outspoken and in-your-face as GloRilla, that silence spoke volumes. But according to those close to her, this wasn't about fear, it was a calculated decision. Her management and legal team reportedly urged her to stay quiet until they could fully assess the damage. A source said she was blindsided. She had no idea the fallout would hit this hard. Reports claim that several upcoming brand deals were instantly frozen, including a rumored collaboration with a major fashion label that had planned to spotlight her in a campaign centered on women's empowerment. And it didn't stop there. A number of gospel artists who had previously shown public support for her quickly started deleting posts and quietly unfollowing her. Behind the scenes, her team was thrown into full-blown crisis mode, calling emergency meetings, reworking PR strategies, and bringing in image experts and legal consultants. This wasn't just about keeping her career alive, it was about preserving what was left of her public image. And let's not forget the faith community that had only recently begun to embrace GloRilla after she started mentioning God in interviews and even performed at a few gospel-leaning events. But that support? It quickly began to crumble. She tried to walk in both worlds, one church figure anonymously posted, and now she's realizing you can't serve two masters. Despite the chaos swirling around her name, GloRilla was spotted just days later in Los Angeles, shielded by her security team wearing dark sunglasses and a hooded jacket. Paparazzi shouted her name. Fans begged for pictures. But she didn't say a single word. No official statement from her publicist. No press release. Still no apology or clarification. And that silence? It's left fans split down the middle. Some are standing by her, claiming she's being unfairly criticized over one mistake. Others are calling for accountability, especially after the video surfaced, and Pastor Haddon's viral response made things even more explosive. Adding fuel to the fire, a major entertainment insider hinted that GloRilla might be working on a track that touches on the situation, not blatantly, but clearly enough to recognize. If that turns out to be true, it could be her way of seizing control of the narrative, or possibly throwing even more gasoline on the flames. Will she speak out publicly? Or will she let the music speak for her? As the GloRilla controversy continued to ignite across social media, the most unexpected fallout hit in the last place anyone anticipated: within the church walls themselves. From pulpit to pew, everyone had an opinion. What began as an online debate quickly erupted into a full-scale civil war inside the gospel and Christian community. Some well-known church leaders and gospel artists wasted no time distancing themselves from both GloRilla and Deitrick Haddon, calling for public repentance and accountability. One megachurch pastor, who asked not to be named, didn't mince words during a live stream. We are living in an age where wolves come dressed as sheep. When you allow what's profane to step into holy spaces without spiritual discernment, this is the result: shame, scandal, and chaos. Even highly respected gospel voices like Tasha Cobbs, Leonard, and Tamala Mann found themselves caught in the middle, not because they were involved, but because they stayed silent. Their comment sections were flooded with fans demanding that they speak out or take a stance. It became obvious this is no longer just about GloRilla. This is about how the church presents itself to the world. At the same time, younger pastors and modern worship leaders came to GloRilla's defense. They argued that the church should lead with grace and inclusion, not shame and rejection. One young Atlanta pastor went viral with a simple but powerful reminder: Jesus sat with sinners. He didn't judge them. If GloRilla walked through your church doors, would you minister to her or turn her away because of her outfit or her lyrics? We can't forget where we came from. And that's when the clash took on a generational tone. Older pastors and more traditional gospel audiences wanted a clear separation between secular influence and the sacredness of the church. But the younger generation, many raised on hip-hop and already Familiar with GloRilla's music viewed this moment as a rare chance for connection and outreach, and the conflict wasn't just limited to online debates. Some churches took real action, canceling upcoming appearances with Deitrick Haddon, stating that they could no longer align with someone who, in their view, disrespected the sacred. "We love Deitrick," one choir director admitted, "but this time he's way off. He's forgotten who his audience is." Then, just when things couldn't get more chaotic, screenshots started circulating. Church group chats, fan forums, ministry boards. Heated discussions everywhere, some even debating whether Christian spaces should outright ban artists like GloRilla altogether. This was no longer a matter of personal taste. It had become a spiritual battlefield. But maybe the biggest question of all was this: has the controversy permanently damaged GloRilla's crossover into faith-based spaces? Or could she still find redemption through an apology, or maybe through a deeper dialogue? After all the backlash, the headlines, and the holy uproar, the one question still hanging in the air was, what happens now for both GloRilla and Deitrick Haddon? Can they bounce back? Will the church offer forgiveness, or is this the final chapter in gospel's uncomfortable dance with hip-hop culture? Let's begin with GloRilla. In the immediate aftermath, she went completely silent. No response, no clapback, not even a cryptic post. That silence? It was both loud and intentional. According to insiders, her team shifted into full-blown damage control, canceling a number of faith-centered appearances and reportedly reworking her PR strategy around upcoming collaborations. But here's the plot twist: sources say GloRilla had actually been preparing to release a spiritually inspired track. Something drawn from her personal struggles, her roots, and her grandmother's faith. That track? Now put on hold, possibly for good. One music executive told insiders, Glo had something powerful in the works. She wanted to speak to the streets and to the church. But this controversy completely derailed all that momentum. Despite everything, her fanbase, especially Gen Z, stayed loyal. They continued to view her as raw, real, and unapologetically herself. Still, many within the Christian world now feel her image is too divisive for gospel stages or worship events. As for Deitrick Haddon, this wasn't just a messy incident. It could end up being a career-defining misstep. Once hailed as a gospel trailblazer who blended urban sound with spiritual truth, Haddon now finds his legacy under fire. Pastors who once championed his creative risk-taking are suddenly silent or worse, feeling betrayed. Social media is now flooded with old sermon clips being scrutinized for contradiction. Some are even calling for him to be pulled from worship conferences and faith-based entertainment panels. According to reports, the Gospel Music Association received over 2,000 emails and phone calls within just 48 hours, many demanding that the organization sever all ties with Haddon for what they saw as promoting blasphemy. But the backlash wasn't the only wound. What cut even deeper was the feeling that Haddon had turned his back on his spiritual foundation, choosing viral relevance over sacred responsibility. He tried to stay relevant, one gospel radio host commented. But relevance without reverence? That's just noise. Still, not everyone abandoned him. Some stood by his side, insisting his heart was in the right place, that he was simply trying to bring someone outside the faith into the house of God. They argued that church should be a space for healing, not humiliation, and maybe, just maybe, this whole situation was overblown by people who already had issues with hip-hop culture in the first place. But that's the real issue, isn't it? This scandal didn't just expose GloRilla or Haddon, it exposed a deep, long-standing wound within the church. The constant tug-of-war between tradition and progress. The challenge of welcoming the broken without disrespecting the sacred. The struggle to embrace artists like GloRilla without inviting chaos into sacred spaces. This isn't just about one viral moment. It's about who has the right to claim the church. It's about who decides what worship looks like. It's about whether gospel music will continue to evolve or retreat back into the comfort of the familiar, and right in the middle of it all is a young woman dancing inside a church with the kind of joy that only comes from someone who likely never believed she'd be welcome there. Was it inappropriate? Maybe, but it started a conversation the church has needed to have for a long, long time.